up here. Hello, ladies, maybe a few gentlemen. Welcome for this live webinar on how to balance female hormones. This is a very important subject because, just like men, we want to keep our hormones balanced. But for women, they're going through different transitions besides just puberty. Then they go into, perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause. And then every month they're having their cycle. So hormones are more in flux than a man. So it becomes even more important because it's affecting their lives, their mood a lot more than it would a man. Even though low testosterone is devastating to a man in low energy, low fatigue, low libido, low motivation, everything that seems to make a man drops like a rock when his testosterone goes down. But that's another subject. Of course, for women, if they have too much testosterone, this can be a problem. And if they have too little testosterone, but generally it's not their issue. Mostly it would be in terms of, estrogen and progesterone imbalance. And sometimes that's related to the adrenal hormones as well, like cortisol. This can affect your hormonal imbalance. If you have adrenal stress, you have a lot of stress, you're not sleeping well, this can affect your hormonal imbalance. It's very important to look at what are the causes. Of course, too much soy, too much foods like meat, the red meat and chicken that's been pumped with hormones can increase estrogen level, not just in women, and lead to early puberty for women, but can lead to man boobs for men, and can lead to high estrogen levels or even estrogen dominance in women just from having these phytoestrogens in their life. Like there's soy. Soy is a contributor. Now, if you have low estrogen, soy can be a good idea, but we're going to talk today about signs and symptoms of low estrogen, signs and symptoms of low progesterone, and we're going to talk about herbs that help to balance estrogen and herbs that help to balance progesterone, and then we're going to talk about formulas and products which I have that combine these herbs together to achieve different objectives, for a woman, like prior to menstruation. We're not going to get into other conditions like heavy menstrual bleeding or infertility, but we're going to talk a little bit in more general terms. But I did want to say that, I always discourage women from doing hormone replacement therapy unless, of course, you've had a full hysterectomy and you have no reproductive system left, which in that case, you have no choice. But you have to understand that once you start hormone replacement therapy, you got to do it for life. And you have to keep adjusting it, because if you still have a reproductive system there, your ovaries and your uterus, and they're still functioning, then when you start taking estrogen replacement, then this can lead in even just a few months' time to too much estrogen, which there are signs and symptoms of, or too much progesterone. So that's why you have to keep going in and having these levels tested and adjusted forever. And it's very easy to have too much because you're taking it externally in a patch or pellets, and then your body's still making some. Now, of course, when you take any type of hormone replacement therapy, just like if you took enzyme replacement therapy, digestive enzyme replacement therapy, you're doing something your body should be doing. So when you take a hormone, that your body's supposed to be making, then the body will generally make less, and then you'll need more of the replacement therapy. So in other words, it's creating a dependence, which is generally the objective of the medical field anyway, to create long-term clients, long-term revenue. So you have to be aware of that, and it's not always that even effective. And it can cause a whole bunch of other problems for a woman, particularly if you're not going in on a regular basis to get checked, and these numbers get a little high, then you can have all types of symptoms. Let's take a look here at some testimonials here. This is mostly under PMS-related testimonials. And, I will say that all herbal systems, ancient herbal systems throughout the world had treatments for PMS and menopause, since this condition has been around since the beginning of time, or beginning of human time. Um, and so you can go to South America and go into a night market and probably find herbs for it. You can go into anywhere, probably any market in Africa, and find herbs to treat your hot flashes and PMS symptoms, because all cultures have these. So we're going to talk today about herbs, Western herbs and Indian herbs, but Chinese herbalists can equally treat hormonal imbalances, low libido, and fertility. Now, you have to understand, in Ayurveda and these ancient systems, they didn't talk in terms of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone. They just read the symptoms. And from the symptoms, they made conclusions, and then they provided different herbs and dietary guidelines. They didn't know the words estrogen and progesterone and all this. This is just like interpretations of what's happening. It's just a scientific view. Just like with vitamins and minerals, they've been treating health issues for thousands of years without understanding vitamins and minerals. Those are just like scientific ways to partially interpret what's happening in your body, or what you're lacking in some cases. It's helpful, but it's not necessary to look from that point of view. And but in this webinar, we're going to talk from that point of view. Here we have a very interesting case here. Not too long ago, just a couple of years ago, this woman didn't have a menstrual cycle for 26 years. And she went to many gynecologists and even had pellet insertions in her hip for hormone replacement therapy. None of it worked. After taking my herbs and following my protocols for a few months, her cycle returned. It was extremely healthy, normal cycle, no PMS symptoms. Felt like a miracle. So this is a great testimonial showing you the power of these herbs, even more than just what any gynecologist could do with hormone replacement. I get a lot of women, and they're having hormonal issues, or fibroids, and the only treatment they seem to offer the women is birth control pills. So it's very crude. Here we just have a woman thanking me for hormonal balance. She was trying to lose weight for a long time, and it wasn't. So I determined it was hormonal. A lot of women waste a lot of time running in the gym, starving themselves to death, and fasting, trying to lose weight, when the whole problem was hormonal in the first place. And we're going to talk about which herbs or which imbalances are often the cause of the weight gain. In particular, we're going to talk about that. So once I identify that, then why am I starving the woman, making her exercise when it's hormonal? And that's why you get a lot of stubborn weight loss you can't lose. And it's because it's a hormonal condition, and running on the gym isn't going to change that. Okay, this is a woman just had endometriosis, which I get a lot of cases of endometriosis because again, the doctor just wants to put you on birth control and just stop your period to lower the estrogen. Of course, sometimes just having a child and getting pregnant will solve a lot of these problems, because sometimes these women later in their age, like 38, if haven't had any children, they called it delayed pregnancy, are the ones that are most susceptible for these inflammatory uterine conditions, and particularly uterine fibroids. And so sometimes these women, they want to get pregnant, but they can't get pregnant. And then when they go to the doctor with the endometriosis or the fibroid, they just want to do a surgery, which could risk fertility, or they want to put them on the birth control. And then they're trapped. They don't know what to do. I guess they read my testimonials, and I have not had any trouble treating these conditions. Here's somebody talking about mood is much better, cramp and much lighter. After 3 weeks, her PMS pain was almost completely gone. I benefited from the PMS tea. We're going to talk about that. 2 weeks, my skin cleared. See, also with skin problems, sometimes it can be hormonal. So people have these skin problems or pimples, and they don't know what to do. They've been going to the dermatologist. They've been putting creams on it. I determined that it's hormonal. Treat the hormones. Skin clears right up. Now, this is a great testimonial. This month, I had no PMS until the day before. That's right. in Ayurveda, we taught if you want to read a woman's health, you just look at her PMS symptoms. The more exaggerated they are, the more there's an imbalance in there. Ayurveda learns to read the symptoms, say like delayed menstruation, irregular menstruation, spotting. All these are clues to the Ayurveda doctor to determine what the treatment should be. We're not thinking estrogen and progesterone, but ultimately we are adjusting these, and we're going to talk about that. But when the menstrual cycle is running good and you have good hormonal balance, then you should have almost no symptoms at all. And when women come to me for fertility, I always just focus on balancing the hormones. And since they're having a menstrual cycle, I've got all the information I need every month from her PMS signs. So as the PMS signs go away, we can know that the hormones are balancing. And we also look at signs and symptoms. So those are some great testimonials there. And now let's talk about a little bit about what are these signs and symptoms of, if we talk in terms of, like, say, low progesterone in level in women. And of course is critical for the woman's menstrual cycle, supporting pregnancy, and just maintaining overall health. We're talking progesterone. Irregular periods, one of the most common signs of low progesterone. Irregular or even absent. It's just not even showing up, or it's going for skipping periods, it's going for long times. And of course, low fertility, difficulty conceiving, and there can be like no period but just a little spotting, and of course you're going to have certain mood swings, but more in the angle of irritability when there's low progesterone. And of course, decreased progesterone leads to reduced interest in sex, ultimately low libido. And of course, low progesterone causes fatigue and exhaustion, and more leaning towards depression and weight gain. So once you start to understand these symptoms, you can just I look at a woman's form and she checks off all the boxes, so I don't even have to ask all the questions. And I have things organized on my form. So if you check all the boxes over here in this section, I know that's progesterone. If you check all the boxes over here, I know that's estrogen. If you check all the boxes over here, I know it's adrenal. If you check boxes here, then I know it's testosterone. It doesn't say that on the form. It just has a bunch of questions. But I know when you answer all these questions in that category, that's what it is. And of course, migraines. See, women who get migraines frequently, particularly before menstruation, this is low progesterone. So we're going to talk about herbs that increase progesterone in a minute. Now, estrogen or low estrogen, possibly even more important for a woman. This is helping a lot more with not just her physical body development, but also you're going to get a lot of emotional symptoms when you have low estrogen, because it's playing such an important role in the cycle, your skin. Women with good estrogen levels have the smooth baby skin. And of course, as postmenopausal women know, estrogen is important for bone health and hair, bone, fingernails. When these are depleted, you have a childbearing aged woman, she's having her menstrual cycle, but her hair is falling out, her skin is not baby beautiful or soft. Then this can be one sign. Other sign, of course, is vaginal dryness, mood swings, sleeping problem, low libido, and a kind of, again, fatigue, but this thinning hair and dry skin. This is and osteoporosis. That's one of the textbook signs, when you have the low estrogen, which are all problems that come to postmenopausal women. They have the sleeping issue, they have the dry skin, the degenerative bones, thinning hair, low libido. It's all from the estrogen. But vaginal dryness is like the textbook sign. And also, of course, can affect the menstrual cycle. and can be, it's kind of hard to determine there, but what it could go either irregular or heavy bleeding or light bleeding. So it's kind of hard to determine estrogen just from the regularity of the cycle. But all of these other symptoms that I mentioned are usually the big clue. And of course, there'll be lower libido and fertility. Now, when we talk about herbs, now you have to understand these herbs don't have estrogen and progesterone in them. They're like natural progesterone production. They're helping support progesterone production. That's what they're doing. You see, they're not taking the hormone in. It sounds all nice and simple. Oh, I'll just take a natural synthetic hormone or bioidentical. It sounds all nice, but these are just, hormones that you're putting in your body through a patch or a pellet. These herbs are only supporting your reproductive system to help you produce the hormones. And some of them, to some degree, will mimic progesterone like effects. And some of them are estrogenic, which means they have kind of the ingredients to help you make your body to make the hormone, for example, estrogen. But they don't have them in, with a few exceptions like soy. But we'll just go through some of these herbs here. A Vitex berry, which you're going to see, I'm going to talk about that. Vitex berry, you can see that in a lot of my hormonal products, because this one is very famous for stimulating the production of progesterone and also to some degree estrogen. And this is usually taken in the beginning, early stages of the menstrual cycle, particularly if there's infertility and irregular periods. Now, Maca Root, not being a Western herb or an Indian herb, it's a South American herb, but it does really help. I mean, it's an adaptogenic herb, basically. I mean, it's used for fatigue, low stamina, but it's also increasing the progesterone and overall hormonal health, and helping to find the balance between estrogen and progesterone. See, that's why maca is really so good for boosting fertility symptoms, particularly menopausal symptoms, and giving you more energy. So you've got the kind of burned out, tired woman who's in post-menopause. This is Maca Root is very effective. Even though it's a South American root, we have to acknowledge it as being very effective. I don't use it in any of my formulas because a lot of women are actually already taking it. But red clover, you'll see red clover. We're going to talk about that. That's one that mimics estrogen in the body and balances estrogen levels. Wild yam, also very famous herb it's used as a precursor to produce progesterone. It doesn't directly convert into progesterone. It just helps stimulate the production. See, most of these herbs are stimulating or supporting the reproductive system, and you'll see that's used in postmenopausal. Now, I talk about ashwagandha here, but ashwagandha in itself isn't managing or stimulating the production of hormones, sex hormones, but it does regulate cortisol levels and reduce stress, and this supports hormonal production, which is why I see it. Now, black cohosh, there's blue cohosh and black cohosh. We're going to talk about black cohosh. It's particularly good during menopause, and you're going to see that's in my hot flash tea, my menopause formula, and it alleviates the symptoms of estrogen dominance, which is another type of imbalance where you don't have the progesterone. So the black cohosh is one of these herbs that's very famous for helping in the progesterone level, postmenopausal level, with estrogens down. There's kind of an estrogen dominance, and you have some of those symptoms I mentioned earlier of low progesterone. And this black cohosh is one of those wonder herbs that's used for that. We're going to show you. And Dong Quai, of course, they call it like the female ginseng. And it's a Chinese medicine, but again, when something works, it's adapted, is very helpful in regulating the menstrual cycle, promoting overall reproductive health, and will stimulate progesterone and estrogen and help support the whole endocrine system by regulating the menstrual cycle. Very, very important. Evening primrose oil, which, I really need to prescribe more to my patients. I have a sample bottle here, and I keep forgetting to mention this because I don't sell it. It's just you buy it online. It's essential fatty acid that helps reduce, inflammation, particularly good for endometriosis and fibroids. Um, and also helps with both estrogen and progesterone levels. And it's very good for skin for women for evening primrose oil. So I have to remember to bring that up more often. Now, when we talk about estrogen, you're going to hear some of the same herbs like dong quai. This has helped support estrogen levels and balance estrogen levels in women. You hear there's only balance. With these herbs, you never can have too much. It's only stimulating. It's never going to make excess. That's the problem with the hormone replacement is you can end up with excess hormones. You get too much estrogen in the body, this can create growths and it'll even lead to tumors. So you don't want too much estrogen, and if you get too much progesterone, this can create like hot flashes and irritability and other symptoms. So when you're taking these external hormone replacement, you can end up with excess. You will never end up with excess taking the herbs because they're not directly. Now, red clover contains some progesterones, plant compounds that kind of mimic this hormone. No, I'm not progesterones, phytoestrogens. Red clover has phytoestrogens, and they mimic estrogen in the body. So they're an exception. And chasteberry, maca root, wild yam, wild yam is very famous for improving estrogen production. And shatavari is one of the key herbs in Ayurveda that promotes overall female reproductive health, but particularly supports estrogen production and balances hormones. And of course, is well known for its ability to improve fertility. There's other things that increase estrogen, like fenugreek, the spice, but to a lesser degree. And we mentioned evening primrose, which really all women could be taking, and soy. These can take, these are taking type of phytoestrogen. Soy has it. So if you're having too much estrogen or you're a man, you don't want to be eating a lot of soy products because they're mimicking estrogen. And, this leads to early puberty in women and leads to, like male boobs in men. So, too much soy can be a problem for men and women. And we have many types of products that have a lot of soy in it we're not aware of, not just soybeans and tofu, but it's, all throughout the food supply. And of course, there's also synthetic estrogens in water bottles and plastic water bottles, and chicken and beef are all shot up with estrogen to make the bird or the cow larger, so there's more meat. And then if you're consuming this can also increase your estrogen. So these are very important points to know about some of these foods that can increase these hormones. But soy is one of the ones that would concern you the most. Now, I know that was a lot of herbs in a very quick period of time. It's a big subject. Studying hormonal balance is a very complex subject, but I wouldn't encourage you to just go out and just start buying herbs because, okay, this is, except with maybe like Maca Root or something like that. But I wouldn't be going out and start just taking chasteberry or Vitex Berry or, black cohosh on its own just because you read or you heard that it increases or supports a particular hormone, because that's not the way these formulas are used. These herbs are used. They have to be made in a formula. So it's the formula that's really important to creating the balance. And that's why, the formula is very important. If you look here under Herbman Teas, our sponsor, thank you very much, Herbman Teas, for sponsoring everything today, paying all the bills. Let me have some of my male libido tea there. Keep my hormones up to snuff. But you can see on the site, we have a whole section for the women, female health, and both is basically for PMS, fibroids, hot flash, and hormonal balance. So there's a lot of products, and we're not going to get into the ones for, uterine anti-inflammatory, heavy menstrual bleeding, absent bleeding, or breast milk production, and all of these other specialized ones. We're just going to talk about some of the key ones. But let's take a look here. This main one, which I use a lot. This is a tea. We're going to talk about some Western herbs, and we're going to talk about some Indian herbs. Now, here you see that red clover. We know that red clover is producing phytoestrogens, and there we see shatavari, also estrogen improver. Why is a spearmint in there? Well, spearmint's known to reduce testosterone. Now, I know it's kind of rough to say this, but one of the symptoms of high testosterone in women is facial hair. But more clearly, if there's hair growing on the nipples of a woman, this is the textbook sign of high testosterone. And so this tea is kind of balanced across the board. We got some herbs like black cohosh, the dandelion, the dong quai. These are more for the progesterone balance. Spearmint for the testosterone. It's not going to lower it unnaturally. I mean, it's only if it's high. This is only having mild effect. You'd have to drink like a couple cups a day for probably over a month, and then you're going to see. It's not like you're drinking 1 cup of tea and your hormones are balanced. And red clover and shatavari are really the best for the estrogen. And ashwagandha is the adaptogen that's helping with the stress, because if cortisol gets high, this messes with your whole hormonal system. So then you're asking, what's the daminia for? Well, daminia is aphrodisiac. So we threw that in there because that's for women. We use it for men too, but it's kind of a mild aphrodisiac. And we throw that in there because a lot of women are concerned about low libido when they start looking at female balance. But it's only a small mark. And licorice, I didn't mention it, but licorice is also a hormonal balancer. And fennel makes it all a little sweet and cooling. So this formula, will help with estrogen, progesterone, adrenals, and testosterone balance. And even though you know all the herbs, you don't know all the percentages, So the percentage is also very important, because besides the fennel is just in there to make it a little sweet. But, over the years, I changed the herb. It is quite an advanced formula because I'm using Chinese herbs, Western herbs, Indian herbs, all mixed together. So you really have to know these pretty well to be doing something like this. If you didn't know what you're doing, this would be a crazy formula. But, I've tried it. I've adjusted it over the years. I get feedback from the patients that allows me to adjust it. A patient can take this for a few months and then tell me, hey, everything is better, but I'm still having this symptom. And then I can adjust the herb or add an herb to the formula. But it's not happening quickly. Usually I give this to a woman who's menstruating from after menstruation right up until ovulation, and maybe a little after ovulation. And there's also signs and symptoms from ovulation. If we get the signs and symptoms of a woman that she experiences during ovulation, or the lack of, this also can be interpreted to help to understand the treatment needed and the hormones lacking. So it wasn't, we were just talking in general terms, but there's also the premenstruation symptoms, the ovulation symptoms, and of course, any menopausal symptoms. That's what Ayurveda is using. It's using the signs and symptoms to interpret. That's why we have to ask a lot of questions. But this tea, I'll give it along with the PMS tea for a woman with hormonal imbalance and a lot of PMS symptoms. I'll give them this tea to take all month, except 7 days before the period. Then I give them my famous PMS tea. And I give them that right before the menstruation, because this one is made for those symptoms. And we didn't even talk about red raspberry leaf. It's the base of this formula. But again, this formula is very complex formula. It's doing multiple things now. It's helping with cramps. It's a little calming. It's helping with the mood, and it's also working with some of the hormones. So it's got a lot of herbs, and it's a very complex formula. And the base of the formula is red raspberry leaf. And red raspberry leaf, even though it's not like a, you know, estrogen producing, it's a uterine tonic. So it tones the uterus and helps with heavy bleeding. And that's really the base of this whole formula, because what we're treating is the reproductive system, particularly the uterus. And then we got passion flower, which is just a little relaxing. St. John's wort, it's anti-inflammatory, good for the mood. Lavender, it's a little anti-inflammatory and has a nice smell to it. White willow bark, that's for the cramping and the pain. That's what they made aspirin from. And then you can see the phytoestrogens, the wild yam, the dong quai, the chase berry. It's packed. And then a little black cohosh, because that's usually not the progesterone is usually not the issue with a young woman. And then you got the fennel, a little feverfew for the headache. So, women say it gets rid of the mood swings, gets rid of the headaches, gets rid of the cramping, and gets rid of the heavy bleeding. And you take it even for a few months, and in most women's, their menstrual cycle will become much better with a lot less symptoms, particularly if they're taking this female balance formula the rest of the month. I mean, it's just the results are just tremendous. Women in their 40s have told me, after taking just this tea, that this PMS tea, that it's the least menstrual symptoms they had their entire life. I have dozens of women that told me they didn't even know their menstrual cycle was coming. Their husband didn't know it was coming. Nobody knew it was coming until like the day before. No symptoms at all. So many women have told me that. I showed you some of the testimonials, but of course, there's a lot more women who didn't give me the testimonial. So very, very effective. Both formulas, quite complex. You can see there's a lot of herbs in there. They've been adjusted over the decades, but both working very well. All they're available on Herb Teas. And now, of course, when we and this PMS tea, it can be used in perimenopause too. It's a case by case. I mean, if the cycle's still going and you're going in perimenopause, I'll still put you on the PMS tea. But if the cycle is stopped, then I won't use that tea anymore. I may use the hormonal balancing tea. And once the hot flashes come, then we give you a hot flash tonic. And we can see now we're back into Indian herbs. Shatavari, the premier herb for hot flashes. Ashoka, the name of the herb basically means friend of woman. Lodra. Shankpushpi is a calming herb. And amazingly, it's got what's called Mukti Pishti. Mukti Pishti is the powder of pearls is in there. Ayurveda is very advanced, and pearls are very cooling. And Brahmi is also very calming and cooling. So Shatavari is very cooling. So this really, balances estrogen levels, cools the whole body down, takes away that irritability, and just, cools the whole mentally and physically, cools a woman. Just so you're not hot-headed, you're cool, and you're not hot-bodied, no more hot flashes. Just working fantastic. I got plenty of testimonials on that. And the formulas, of course, work better than the teas. I do have a hot flash tea. There it is. Because, but the formula works better. I mean, if a woman comes to me with hot flashes, I just give her both, the hot flash formula and the hot flash tea. So I'm kind of using Indian herbs and Western herbs. And here, even though this is a Western formula, I threw in some Shatavari root. But people ask me, why are the rose petals there? Well, it looks nice. It's for women. Smells nice. But motherwort is another one known for hot flashes. There's that spearmint again, cooling, sweet. Raspberry leaf, also sweet, cooling. Sage, well, that's what the American Indian women use, just sage for hot flashes. Red clover, we've talked, and Shatavari, we know those are the good phytoestrogens. Black cohosh, it's more for progesterone, but they're not so cut and dry. And this one, it does work. I mean, if you don't have, in fact, this one would be better probably just for postmenopausal symptoms, not even hot flashes. I mean, I could take out the Shatavari and it would be good for women You don't even have to have the hot flashes, and this would help you. This one, the formula is definitely for hot flashes. This one's just for postmenopausal women. Um, and but sometimes I use this one. It's called Female Health Tonic. I'll use this for a postmenopausal woman who's not having the hot flashes, and also I'll use this one for a menstruating woman when there's no big symptoms. Sometimes I'll give this formula during the week, but this is more of a fertility formula. It's just supporting the female reproductive organs, help balancing all the hormones in general, and can be used for premenstruation symptoms and menopause. That's why it's called a kind of female health formula. Almost all women could take it. And I think if, you looked at those herbs and you knew them like me, I mean, every woman could be taking this. Now, I do have fertility formulas that are just for fertility, but this is kind of very similar, just lacking some of these specialized herbs in fertility. But and I do have special formulas just for fertility, and that is a whole nother subject. So the real trick is picking the right combination of these herbs or formulas. I don't pick in terms, the formulas are made and proven. And like I said, there's even more of them. Uterine fibroid tea, if you got fibroids, absent menstruation. That's probably what I gave that woman in that testimonial. Excess bleeding and spotting, uterine anti-inflammatory formula. And here, well, we could always talk about this one, sexy woman tea. This one's also hormonal balancing, but it's got the ashwagandha for the stress, the shatavari for the estrogen, the motherwort for hormonal balancing, dong quai hormonal balancing, rose petals so it smells nice. But now it's got two aphrodisiacs. And now remember, dong quai is considered the female aphrodisiac, and that's in there, but it doesn't have much stimulation. I mean, the Dominia, you get a little stimulation. Like, you don't want to be drinking this at night, too late at night. You want to drink it early in the day, and it will be like gentle aphrodisiacs, not like the male aphrodisiacs that they take and then they can't even sleep for a day. They just need that. Man just needs this high level of stimulation, the heart pumping, circulation going. He needs everything going. But not so for the women. So they use different aphrodisiacs, and dong quai is really one of the premier ones. But I like this Dominia. It's not too strong. And then there's this other little horny goat weed there. Just throw it in there for a little bit of stimulation. And the ginkgo is, for the, circulation and helpful. Ashwagandha is calming. So it's a kind of mildly, some women, they told me it took like a couple weeks to kick in. So I may give a woman who's got a libido issue, I may give her the sexy woman tea, plus one of these other formulas, maybe female health or hormonal balance. I'll pick one of those on a case-by-case basis, but I'll generally give most women 2 products. And since I'm a Western herbalist and Indian herbalist, generally I give you 1 tea and 1 formula. That's kind of like my pattern. So I would, if it was a postmenopausal woman with some hot flashes, I would throw in the hot flash formula plus sexy woman tea together. And if the woman was younger, coming to me, I'd throw in the sexy woman tea, because that's kind of like the night of, I mean, you got to you don't want to just take this every day. It's like the night of, and because it's got the libido increasing herbs in it that are slightly stimulating. But so the other days and nights, the woman can take the hormonal balancing tea, or one of my real favorites is just the female health tonic. So she can take this female health tonic every day. And that special evening, she wants to increase her libido, then she can start drinking sexy woman tea. You don't drink it every night unless, that's your objective, is to be, have a good libido every night. So, you have to combine, and particularly when a woman's on a menstrual cycle, obviously during ovulation is where the libido is the best. And we use these herbs here, female health balance, from menstruation to ovulation, so because it's kind of almost like a fertility formula. And then the women can definitely experience the ovulation more. I'm surprised how many young women can't even feel their ovulation. They're like, I don't feel nothing. I go, don't you have symptoms like, less vaginal dryness, more libido, warmer body temperature? Nope, nothing. And then I give them these herbs. Um, and that's, of course, not a good sign if you can't feel ovulation taking place. So I give them these herbs, and then they go, oh, yeah, I felt it last month. I knew it. My husband knew it. We all knew I'm ovulating. So that's a good sign. And I've heard that many times just from this formula here, female health formula. They just said, wow, my menstrual symptoms dropped and my ovulation became much clearer. So that's a good sign. And definitely if fertility is an issue, then you want to work on the whole cycles. So you want to give like female health tonic before ovulation, and then after ovulation you could be doing female balance tea, and then right before your menstrual cycle starts you do PMS tea. And generally during the menstruation we don't encourage the women to take any herbs, because we want to see, that's where we're interpreting, that's where we're getting the information from, where I always say the bloody details, so the women, they will tell me, okay, what happened the last month, and they'll say, oh yeah, well, no cramping, no more spotting, no more this, but I still had a headache, okay. So we keep working on it, and usually within a few months we can eliminate all these symptoms. But sometimes we have to increase the dosage. Like some women, they weren't drinking the tea enough, so they would only start taking it like the day of menstruation. I had to encourage them to start like 5-6 days early, and then they go, oh, that did it. Don't wait until the symptoms are uh, so clear, but start treating it in advance. So again, I know the herbs and I know the formula and I have the experience. So that's how I'm able to pick the right formula, the right products, and give them at the right time. I mean, with men, you can just give them libido herbs and just say, take them every day, if you're in a relationship. But with women, before menstruation, after menstruation, before ovulation, after ovulation, timing is everything for women. So even these herbs, I have to usually time them out and tell them when to take it and when to stop taking it and change to the other formula. But, that's resulted in these tremendous cases of women who've been infertile for decades, and becoming and having conceiving, women that have told me that they've been having menstrual cramps and mood swings their entire life, completely gone. Women who've had skin problems after they balance the hormones, completely gone. Women have had libido problems, completely recovered. Women that have had excess body weight they couldn't get rid of, gone. So balancing your hormones is critical. I mean, in fact, from what I know in my experience, I would say every woman should just let me evaluate your hormonal levels with or without your lab work. I can figure it out, particularly if you're not having any serious problems. Then, I can pick a few of these products and probably help your health in many ways. Skin, weight, libido, and symptoms, energy. All of these can improve for a woman when she has her hormones balanced. And unfortunately, in today's life, when you're stressed out, you're overworked, the adrenals are cortisol's pumping, and you're eating a lot of soy products, a lot of chicken with soy in it. I mean, it's really messing up the hormones. And of course, the woman is very sensitive to this, because we don't um, men, they have a little bit of all the hormones. We all have a little bit of them. It's just a matter of degree, but the men just not seem to be affected. It's just like we have a lot of testosterone when we're young, and then it just slowly wanes. But for women, it's changing week to week, day to day, month to month, and she changes diet, changes location, changes partners, then her hormones are changing all the time. So they really need this type of counseling. And unfortunately, many women don't come to me until like they haven't, the last ditch, like some of those testimonials. They tried the pellets, they tried the hormone replacement, they tried everything, and then they come to me. But it's really not the best approach. You should be proactive and think, yeah, well, I mean, a couple bags of tea is going to cost me, 30, $40. Why not balance my hormones with that PMS tea? I always say the same jokes when the women thank me for it. I go, you bought that PMS tea like 3 months ago. You just finished? I go, yeah. And so it helped you get rid of your menstrual symptoms for 3 months. Yeah. And they go, yeah, it's amazing. Oh, and you only paid $15 for the bag of tea. That means $5 a month. You got rid of all your PMS symptoms. So, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. $5 a month, no more cramping, no more mood swings, and maybe it costs you a little more if you got some heavy bleeding and other more serious imbalance, but very, very effective and very, very useful for women. So I really encourage women to, consult with me if you feel you have a hormonal imbalance, and definitely before you try the whole path of hormonal replacement, even if you're a postmenopausal woman, you should still do the herbs over hormonal replacement. And you can do your own research about the risk and the side effects of long-term hormonal replacement. And it's easier just to, help your reproductive system get through these transitions. The menopause is not a health condition. It's a normal transition a woman is going through, just like giving birth isn't a medical condition unless there's a problem. I mean, women have been giving birth for tens of thousands of years all by themselves out in the field. It's not a medical condition you need to go to the hospital for. And PMS is not a medical condition, so but it's treated like one. And they give, hormonal replacement and birth control pills, and they just try to solve the problem with pills when the women are just having these little hormonal imbalances, which they could be creating just from eating a lot of chicken or soy or something like that. And herb, a $15, $20 bag of herbs could resolve the problem. So I just encourage you to go to a good herbalist. Chinese herbalists are very good at hormonal issues, libido issues, fertility issues. The Chinese are very known for this. It's a bigger focus for them, libido, bigger than in Ayurveda. So a good Chinese herbalist could take care of you. Good Ayurvedic doctor could take care of you. And a good Western herbalist could take care of you too. It's just that the Chinese and the Ayurvedic systems are more sophisticated, more detailed. So when you get to complex problems like endometriosis and uterine fibroids, the Chinese and Ayurvedic systems are probably better suited for these more advanced conditions. And really, teas are quite weak compared to the formulas and the powders. The powders are much more effective. The Ayurvedic powders are more effective than teas. People always like the teas. I throw the rose petals in the lavender in there for the ladies, but they like the teas better because I do try to do things for taste, but the formulas are more effective. But you can see my mode of operation is usually I'll give the formula and a tea. And so I'm using Western and Ayurvedic herbs. And I think this combination is very, very effective and much better than just going out and you trying to buy, black cohosh capsules or chasteberry capsules. Even though it may, help you, it's really not the way to treat hormones. You should make a little formula. Now, say I lived with a woman and I knew her very well. I can make a formula just for her. And I do make custom formulas for women. Like I'll make adjustments to the PMS tea and even a hormonal balance tea once I have more information from the person, or if I have a blood panel showing the numbers and I can see what's going on without a doubt, I can make a custom formula just for that woman. And I do modify my PMS tea every once. So I have like 3 or 4 variations on a lot of these products, but definitely the PMS tea, because if a woman has a particular symptom that's not going away with the tea, then I'll just modify it and make one special just for her. That's why you got to work with somebody that knows what they're doing. So I hope this motivated you women to, just do an appointment with me to say, hey, let's balance my hormones and let me do my magic here. and help you out, and not just, suffer with the symptoms and think there's no cure besides taking hormonal replacement therapy. Okay, I wish you all the best, and do feel free to contact me if you need assistance in this regard. Thank you very much.